You already cheated. You already said yours open.
Well, cheers.
It's good, right?
That's like Sunny D.
It just also got alcohol in it now.
That's good for a podcast.
That's
right
good.
there.
That's good right there.
Hey, remember how we were kicking around ideas for the podcast, and I said, oh, like each time before the intro rolls, we should do like something a little silly or a little fun to start it up.
I always like that because I think this is like a nice little like startup thing here.
I have a message for you. 2 months from today, whatever date it is that you're watching this video, you will be in a better situation.
Welcome to the very first episode of The Rewriter's Room, brought to you by Red Greens Productions. That part's not necessarily necessary, but I am your host, Maxwell. Should we say last names?
That's up to you.
I am your host, Maxwell, joined by my co-host, Connor.
I'm a host. I'm actually a host too. You know, contracts. We signed them. 50-50 splits.
I'm your host, Maxwell.
And I'm your host, Connor. Wow, this is the first episode. So, hey, let's explain a little bit about what we want to do with this podcast. You know, because like you and I know, but how do these guys know?
Where they been?
Yeah, right. What do y'all know about this, huh?
So this is an idea I've been kicking around in my head for like all of college.
We talked about it multiple times, multiple years throughout college.
And now we graduated and we're living in our parents' basement, so we have nothing else better to do than to actually do the podcast. The idea basically is we are film students. We really like and appreciate, love film, all of it, even the ones we hate, which is kind of the premise of this.
Very much so, actually.
So the idea was it kind of started with a lot of the popularization of Marvel movies and superhero stuff and pop culture type things becoming more nerdy. And I keep sitting there watching a lot of these movies going, these are good, these are fun. A lot of people, like, you know, I don't want to diminish anybody's work, but there's like things where I think they fall apart, and I think a lot of it has to do with writing, because the major complaint, as the great Martin Scorsese once said, they're theme parks. And
I can understand that opinion. While I know you and I sound very different spectrums a lot of the times with these opinions, especially when it comes to Marvel movies.
I love Martin Scorsese so much.
Oh, yes, he is a certified Martin Scorsese shill. But that's not to say Martin Scorsese isn't a bad director. I love Martin Scorsese so much.
I just checked behind me to see if I had one of his movies on my shelf. I don't.
You don't have... His favorite movie is Goodfellas, by the way. And he doesn't even have anything for that here on the
I have Goodfellas. I just don't have the... I don't have... These are kind of like collector's versions. That sounds dumb. I don't have the Blu-ray with me. I'll get a cool Blu-ray for it.
But to go back to essentially what the podcast is about, I mean, Marvel, Star Wars, they have all these acclaimed directors now heading up their lines to direct these movies. I mean, Taika Waititi with Thor Ragnarok, and coming up soon, Thor Love and Thunder. You got him also doing Star Wars movies now, right?
Yeah, he has a... is it just a single movie?
I think it's a single movie. But even you got Ryan Johnson developing the trilogy.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah. You have
Ryan
the Game
Johnson,
of Thrones creators doing their own movie at one point.
Benioff and oh no, I'm gonna get my cinephile card taken away from me.
You got Patty Jenkins with her Rogue Squadron movie.
And his recent return, Sam Raimi.
Exactly, with Multiverse of Madness. And so, but the problem is you get all these acclaimed directors, but what happens when you get these directors who know how to direct a cast, who know how to direct a hell out of a movie, but they're handed up subpar, maybe mediocre scripts sometimes.
Yeah, there's like the crazy studio control with a lot of those. I mean, not to knock someone like Kevin Feige. I mean, he did a good job with saying, hey, here's all these properties, products, and we can bring them all together. I mean, obviously people love them. And so he brought together... I mean, without Kevin Feige, and not just Kevin Feige, but I mean, he was a big pushing force for a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't know how much control he had, but he has a big push, I think, for Kamala Khan's character with Miss Marvel, which is cool just for representation wise, and I think she's a fun character in the comics. The show's coming out literally right now as we speak. I haven't watched any of it yet, so we'll see how that goes.
I haven't actually seen any of it either, but I'm very excited to. But the big thing is, we're going to take some of our movies that we watch, some of our favorite movies that we watch, and what if we had the chance to rewrite them in any way that we wanted, regardless if it affected the story or not?
And that was my idea. I wanted, and the whole podcast idea is basically we're going to treat this like a writer's room. It's kind of set up like a little fun, hey, we got some writing materials around us, and, it's movie themed, obviously, but the idea is like a writer's room, sit down at a table, spew out ideas till you get something. And but we're doing it with movies that have already been written, hence the title, Rewriter's Room.
Rewriter's Room.
Welcome to the Rewriter's Room.
Okay. Do we want to talk about our first episode and what movies we have planned? Because I think it's if you're watching the video version of the podcast, it's it's pretty obvious.
We should point that out. So, if you're listening to this on an audio platform, I think Spotify does video now.
I think they do as well, but I don't know if the service we'll be using has the video function. Either way, I know we can distribute audio podcasts through there, Apple Music, anywhere y'all want to listen to podcasts, you will have access to an audio version of this podcast. But if y'all want, we got the video version too on our YouTube channel, Red Greens.
Yeah, Red Greens is kind of going to be the banner that holds the show Rewriter's Room. That's also exciting.
Very exciting.
Because we're going to we got some stuff planned just beyond just the Rewriter's Room. We got some other kind of standalone videos here and there and things going off. But also we got some other things in the works. So we can't, I guess, like, we don't really want to talk about yet, but it's a fun little something.
We got some good stuff planned going on by the end of the summer, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Stick around to our YouTube channel, Red Greens, and you can see the video versions of our podcast as well as other content if y'all really like it. But going back to it, if you're on the video version, you know what today's movies are about. If you're on the audio version...
Oh, yeah, I forgot that's where this started.
We are talking about the Thor franchise. The first 3 Thors currently out, that being Thor 1, Thor the Dark World, and Thor Ragnarok.
The Trilogy.
The Thorology.
Thorology.
That's bad.
No, that's great. I like it.
Yeah? But yeah, we're going to be talking about these movies in honor of the new Thor coming out July 8th, correct? Thor Love and Thunder is July 8th.
Idea.
I believe so. Let me Google that real quick.
Give it a goog.
Very professional here, Connor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting. I know, was it you told me earlier today that the red carpet just happened?
Yeah, the red carpet just happened, and the movie does premiere July 8th, but the red carpet just happened, and I've been seeing some early reactions from critics online, actually, for the movie. And from what I've been seeing, a lot of people have been saying it's generally a really good movie. I'm smirking because I already know where your head's going to be going to when I say this, but people have been saying it's generally it's a really good movie, and that's probably one of the best Thor movies there are. Not like there's much competition for the best Thor movie currently here.
There is that old Incredible Hulk show with Lou Ferrigno. There was an episode where Thor is on that, and I haven't seen it, but
it's not part of the MCU until it is, you know?
With the multiverse, everything's a part of the MCU.
At this point. But no, I mean, I've been hearing it's a great movie. I've been hearing it has a lot of heart and humor, and Taika Waititi, it seems like he just had full control to do whatever the hell Taika Waititi wanted, really. And the two things I've been hearing, and I already know where you're going to go with this, I've been hearing a lot of people saying that the standout performances are Natalie Portman as the Mighty Thor and Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. And I remember we talked about it during the first trailer where they showed Gore. I remember you and I having a small conversation. And I say small very, very sarcastically because it was not a small conversation. Now, if I remember, it lasted like an hour. And it was just you ranting to me about Gore.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about something really important. And then for whatever reason, we were bringing up stuff about movies as
Yeah.
like a quick side conversation. And then I brought up gore, and I went off for about an hour. So that's what this whole episode's gonna be. It's just an hour of me angry. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but so I get what people are saying, because the major argument has been he doesn't look a lot like his comic book counterpart.
No, not even at all. Not even like beyond color schemes. Really, doesn't even look like it.
Costuming, power set, kinda. I mean, I don't know, because they don't really show him doing a whole lot in the trailer. And just his overall look, it doesn't look like his comic book counterpart. And a lot of people have been kind of coming up with this argument of, well, who cares? If he gives a good performance and he does it well, that's fine, which is true. And the conversation can end there. But at the same time, I go to the place of a lot of people, and it's weird. I feel like it's a weird sentiment almost, that like a lot of people seem to settle. And I'm not saying that if you like Christian Bale in this movie that you settle. Yeah. I'm just saying that I think there's a lot of times where things kind of just, it feels like people just say with a lot of these movies, oh, let's just do the easy thing, and the movie suffers as a whole. Now, is the movie going to be better? The main Comics Explained, Rob, I forget his full name, but Rob from Comics Explained, he made a whole video on it with his second channel where he talks about movies and TV and pop culture stuff, where he made a whole video where he said like he thinks it's stupid if you're angry about it. Which I understand his argument, because his whole thing was, he said his like main argument was, no one's gonna sit there in the middle of the big fight between Gore and Thor and say this fight would be better if he had tentacles on his head.
And I personally, I gotta be honest, I know your sentiment. I very much agree with that.
But at the same time, wouldn't it? And because my argument isn't just I want Christian Bale to have tentacles. My whole argument was Gore in the comics. I'm a big comic guy.
He's a nerd.
I'm a nerd. I'm a big comic nerd. Big on the comic nerd thing.
You want to throw another one of those in there?
I'm a big nerd for comic nerd things. In the comics, he's like genuinely terrifying looking, because he kind of looks kind of like a Twi'lek alien from Star Wars, but like scary, in the sense that like in the comics he has like a flat face, like he doesn't have a nose, but he has nostrils that kind of flare and are snarly, and he kind of looks a little bit like Ebony Maw from Infinity War, but he has like the Twi'lek tentacles. Yeah. And then he also has like these, like, his eyes are like almost like Sith eyes from Star Wars. He's like a combination of a lot of things. He's a Twi'lek, he's a Voldemort, and he's a Sith Lord. Yeah. But he has like these like yellow eyes that has like pinkish around it, and it just kind of makes his eyes piercing and terrifying. And I forget the comic book artist who did it, but it was really effective. It made him really creepy. And also, he doesn't wear a lot of clothes, so you can kind of see a lot of his physique and like body. Mm-hmm. And he's like weirdly emaciated but also ripped at the same time. Like, he has a lot of muscle mass but like no fat. Yeah. And it's like almost uncanny, I guess I would call it. And it's just like he's like this creepy alien thing. He's very bipedal humanoid, which is a big complaint I also have for a lot of pop culture movie stuff, is every alien is just a human that's wearing a mask or prosthetics. There's not like a weird amount of limbs or like a weird physiology to them. 90% of aliens in movies are just like a humanoid. I mean, in the Guardians movies, there's like that whole alien race where it's just humans, but they have pink skin. Yeah. And it's like, okay. Which, like, I like the variety, but, like, at the same time, I wish it was, like, more than just changing the color of a skin or, like, adding horns to a human, stuff like that. Exactly. And I think Star Wars is a big thing for that, but Star Wars is more fantasy, so I can excuse a little more. Marvel tries to set it within our reality. They try to have a very nice, like, science explanation for everything, which even I know I will get into with our Thor breakdowns, but yeah.
they try to set it so much in our reality and so much in our science that it turns into realistically, scientifically, here on Earth, we even have things that have more than 4 legs. Insects, very clearly, right? Who's to say an alien can't be like that?
Yeah. And so, when people say, would it be better if he had tentacles? I think it would be better if he had tentacles and he had his, like, flat face and the weird snarly nostrils and his creepy eyes and his weird physique. And also if he had a more... It doesn't have to be... nothing has to be fully comic book accurate. If you want to take an adaptation of a character, that's fine, but make the adaptation better.
Yeah.
I think there has to be a reason to stray from... I mean, you can't say, oh, budget constraints. You're Disney.
You got all the money in the goddamn world.
You own everything.
Disney, please hire us. Don't actually. But please, I'm very much
hire us to
right
write
now.
your movies.
I am unemployed right now, Disney. I will take any job you throw at me.
So, like, there's a presence to something that is uncannily terrifying. I mean, like, you look at things like Stranger Things Season 1 with the Demogorgon.
Yeah.
The physiology of it's terrifying. Same thing with, like, the original Alien movie. Like, those are, like, terrifying creature alien type things. And I'm not saying that Gore the God Butcher has to look like that. I just want Gore the God Butcher to have an intimidating presence. And I'm sorry, but bald Christian Bale painted gray is not intimidating to me at all. Now, can Christian Bale act intimidating? Yeah. But he's going to act humanly intimidating. There's just, like, a whole nother level to it when it's something that is otherworldly.
Yeah.
And I remember I left a comment on Rob's YouTube video about it. And it wasn't like, shut up, Rob, you're wrong. I just kind of said, I think it goes beyond just wanting tentacles on Christian Bale's head.
Yeah.
And someone said, well, you know, on IMDb, it says that he's a cosmic killer. Cosmic means otherworldly. And then I said to myself, not to him, I said, did you read my comment? Because I was like, I get that. You can say, hey, he's an alien. But I just want it to visually reflect that.
Exactly.
Anyways.
That was the shortened version of what I got. Y'all are lucky you didn't have to sit through the
I was a lot more
that.
passionate, too, I think.
Oh, he was way more passionate then. He simmered down a lot, thank God. You know, that's what's up. Fist bump me on that one. Bam, that was a...
Well, that's a good little knuckle crunch.
Bony one, yeah. But
we're here to talk about Thor 1, Thor 2, Thor 3.
Now, I mean, I don't know. We could beat around the bush all day we wanted, you know, but I think there comes a time when we just have to talk.
Yeah, I don't think we've been talking enough yet. Let's start talking.
Let's do it. So I'm going to write here. Oh, that is thin. Hold on. Hey, you want to napkin that? Thank you.
Yeah.
So on our whiteboard here, very poorly written. I'm kind of just over trying. We got Thor. And so what I'm thinking is this. Let's sit down. Let's talk about Thor. Let's talk about our grievances, the things that we like, things that we didn't like. And if there are things that you say that I'm like, hey, I got to take note of that, I'll write it on my side of the whiteboard with my purple Sharpie.
My magic book of notes.
If I say something that you're like, hey, Connor, that's a good idea, you can write it with your red Sharpie on your side of the board. And we'll do that for Thor, then The Dark World, and then Ragnarok.
Oh, okay. So here, let me rant about the villain for this movie.
Oh, I mean, I'm all ears. Because I'll be real. This is a weak movie for me.
I like Thor 1. Honestly, it's almost on par with Ragnarok for me. Because upon rewatching Ragnarok, I don't like it as much as I used to.
Really?
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll go. Actually, I think we should probably go Thor 1, Thor 3, Thor 2.
Oh, Thor 2 is going to be
I think it's obvious which one we'll talk the most about. But I wrote down here, those giants aren't that giant.
And you know what? Like, I get that, though, because if they're supposed to be, like, the frost giants, you know...
They're the frost giants. They look cold. They nailed the frosty. They're frosty.
Part,
they're frosted.
The giant part, I mean, they're about as tall as you and I.
They're two humans. And that's big.
That's big.
But they're otherworldly. They're aliens. They're magical aliens. Go crazy.
Oh, hold on. They're not magical. Because you got to remember, and this is the one thing that I actually really liked in Thor, was when Thor was talking to Jane Foster about magic, quote unquote, and the whole idea that to what we would call magic that he's doing, to him in Asgard, it's just science.
Yeah, he said magic is just science you don't understand yet.
And I think at that point in the MCU, with how grounded everything was in science, I mean, you look at Iron Man, you look at Hulk, you look at Captain America, you see where they're going with Avengers. Yeah, everything was pretty grounded in science, and so that's why I actually really respect that line. I really like that whole line. I think it really set a nice intimate connection at that point between Jane Foster and Thor, and this understanding of Thor being this almost larger than life god, and Jane Foster just being the scientist on Earth, you know?
I just remembered something.
Uh-oh,
this is such a side tangent. I was looking through my notes, and I wrote down Odin's yell at Loki is funny. Play it. There's a part, we don't have to watch it now, but we should put it in the edit. It made me laugh. I did not remember this. There's the part after Thor and his frat boys go to Jotunheim to fight the frost giants.
Yeah.
And then Odin's all like, "What are you doing? I'm angry." And then Thor's all like, "Ugh." When they're like yelling back and forth, Loki's there like the middle child, just like watching it go down. He's like, "Ugh." And then he goes to like interject and kind of be like, "Whoa, Dad!" And then like Odin just looks at Loki and goes, "Ah!"
No way.
And Loki literally is just like, "Fuck, all right." He literally just goes like, "Ah!" And I was just like, what the? That was worse than anything you just said to Thor. You're like looking at Thor like, "You're irresponsible. You're a child." And then Loki's like, "Well, Dad, come on." And it caught me so off guard, and I laughed so hard at it.
Now, I don't know. Like, I could sit here, I could say what I think about Thor. I know you and I both have very differing opinions, though. Where you think it's more on par with Thor Ragnarok, and I think we both agree it's better than The Dark World.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be honest, for me, Ragnarok is still leagues ahead of even Thor 1, even though Thor 1 is ahead of The Dark World. And really for that, it's like, it's the idea that I like this self-discovery route they tried to set up with Thor in that movie. Specifically, Kenneth Branagh, I think he was the right director for this type of movie.
I completely forgot he directed the first Thor movie.
Yeah,
what a guy.
And that was like their first, if I remember correctly, I think that was their first like big name director.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, because they had Jon Favreau for Iron Man 1 and 2, and I mean, he's huge
at
now.
That point is,
he did.
Yeah, but at that point, I mean, Jon Favreau, love the man. The stuff he's done for Star Wars post, Disney takeover, God bless the man. God bless his soul. I love Jon Favreau, But beyond him now, I mean, even then he wasn't huge name.
I don't know. I love swingers.
But no, I mean, this script should have been for Kenneth Branagh, and I'm glad they did. But my issue is, and this is where I would say it's cool, because I know you and I had this conversation at one point, that the MCU understands their characters pretty well, I'd say, and that they understand what type of movies these characters have to be in. For instance, Captain America, the first Avenger, it's a war movie. Captain America Winter Soldier is a political thriller, espionage type movie, like a near thriller spy type movie. And Civil War is
Avengers 3.
But I think they understand the characters enough to say, hey, they deserve these types of genres, or I guess really subgenres at that point within the superhero movie, And I know we talked about it, where if Thor 3 is full-on road trip, like your classic road trips movies, like National Lampoon's Vacation or whatever, Thor 1 was the one that could even set it up, I think, for Ragnarok to even try and pull that off. Mm-hmm. Because I do think it is a movie about self-discovery. It is a road trip movie through and through. The one thing that I think I like Ragnarok more for is it injected way more heart and humor into the road trip atmosphere than Thor 1 did. While Thor 1 tried to focus more on the interpersonal connections and drama of everything. Mm-hmm. And not that it's bad, but I just found myself getting a little bored at times.
I get that. I also think I wrote down a thing where I feel like I get that they're following everyone's development and plot throughout the movie, but I feel like bouncing back and forth between Asgard and Earth kind of
whiplash.
yeah, I think it kind of hurt the movie in a way, because I think it would be better if you're kind of seeing everything from Thor's perspective. And the whole idea is, I think the whole first act should just be on Asgard, because I know it starts, if you remember, it starts with Jane and them, but I think it's better if you just have maybe it just starts on Asgard. Got a bubble in my throat. Starts on Asgard. Odin does this whole monologue at the start where he's like, "Oh, Asgard and Thor, and hey, look at this."
Yeah.
And then he grows up, does the whole thing, gets banished, and then you're on Earth, and the only exposure you have to find out what's going on Asgard is when Loki visits Thor at the Shield base, and at that point you have to believe what Loki's saying, because I think it'd be cool if you were kind of tricked as the audience too. If you have to go off Loki's word, because also if you're not a big fan of the comics and you don't know mythology, you're just like, oh wow, Odin's dead, and like his brother's not being the best brother, but he just can't do anything about it. He has to leave Thor banished. It's kind of, I think it'd be more interesting for Thor to have to go, wow, I really have to find my way here now, and you kind of, I feel like, would latch on to that more, and then Loki sends the Warriors 3 show up. Mm-hmm. And then you get the story from them. Hey, that's not what's going on. And maybe you could show like a silent montage while Loki's talking about what's happening. You have the actors actually act it out, and like you show the scenes of his like pretend reality. Yeah. Meanwhile, when the Warriors 3 and Sif show up, they're all like, "No, your dad's alive. He's just kind of like sleeping."
Yeah.
And then like you explain all that, show what's actually happening in some quick shot montage that's silent, and then he becomes worthy again, and then he goes to Asgard. It kind of gives like first act Asgard, second act Earth, third act Asgard again. And once you leave Earth with Thor, you never go back to once you leave Earth with Thor back to Asgard, you never see Earth again, except maybe that final shot where he's asking Heimdall, "What do you see?" And he's like, "Oh, she's looking for you."
Yeah.
And I think that would just be a better.
I think that just is a better structure as a whole, because just the constant whiplash, like that's one of the things that made me disinterested. But also, like, I gotta be real, the Earth stuff to me in that movie just felt boring. And I think part of that is because you had a lot of the more, I think, action-y stuff going on Asgard at most points. And then on Earth, it's just, oh, let's see how Thor's trying to become worthy again. Mm-hmm. And I get that's your main plot in the movie, but I don't know. It comes off to me just not as interesting when, especially, you're a superhero movie. You're there mainly for the, as Martin Scorsese says, the theme parks, than you are for intimate, really character developments, though that stuff can be a bonus, I know you and I have had that conversation a lot, too.
Yeah. I do think that there has to be more. I don't fully know what else they could do, to be honest, with him on Earth, but, if you made Asgard Act 1, Earth Act 2, Asgard Act 3, most of the movie is Earth. And maybe you just make Act 1 and 3 longer.
But that's the thing. I think I would appreciate that more. And I think, you and I are hitting pretty close on the head on this one together, where I think our problems lie in the same, in the constant whiplash in that movie. But where you and I differ is you think narratively it would fit better in there. And while I completely agree with that, for me the added bonus is that whenever I go back to the Earth stuff, it's not okay, let me get a quick nap in for 5 minutes before we go back to Asgard. It's, all right, I feel like I can fully pay attention to the Earth stuff now. You got this big-ass smirk. What's
I'm
up?
sorry, I was just reading through and I was just looking at my thoughts. I make myself laugh. I wrote Loki, Laufey, kind of similar, kind of sus. And then I wrote, Loki should do more silly magic. Because all he really does is create copies of himself. I was like, do some more, some more crazy things. But I wrote, and this hits the more, I guess, of what I would like to see on Earth. Thor should spend more time falling in love with not just Jane, but humans and Earth, because he suddenly becomes very interested in Midgard, Earth, for you though don't know. And that's his motivation for the rest of the movies, to constantly be involved with the Avengers and the affairs on Earth and helping people, because in this movie he got this attachment to Jane, and he's like, I love the people on Earth, but I don't see a lot of that. Like he kind of talks to Eric, which I love.
He loves the people on Earth, but if the people on Earth aren't Jane Foster, then why?
Yeah, like if Jane died, I don't think he would actually. I think he'd be like, all right, and then they break up, and like in the later movies, like they don't continue to see each other.
Well, don't forget that happens even off screen.
Yeah, in Age of Ultron, he's just like, oh yeah, we're just not talking anymore, and it's like, okay, maybe just have them date off screen too. I don't know,
like a Pepper and Tony type situation.
And then he's just like at the end of Age of Ultron, he's just like, sorry, I have to leave again. And then maybe she breaks up with him because he's like, you're never, like, I love you, but like we're never together. And that could be a compelling thing that he has to deal with in Thor 3 a little bit more, because Jane's not mentioned in Thor 3 like at all.
Not at all. Not even brought up once.
Because at that point they had fully given up on it, and I don't remember a whole lot. Do you know? There's something with her. She didn't have a great time.
She didn't have a great time on set, especially on that second one, from what I heard. And so that was her big reason for not even wanting to really continue, from what I remember. But
I don't remember if there was a specific reason or not.
I think it was the fact that of what Taika wanted to do with her character in the new one that really made her even want to consider coming back,
Hey, you know how you always play the damsel? What if you were the main character?
You are the hero.
And a lot of people...
Thor.
A lot of people love female Thor. I haven't read a whole lot with her, but she's cool.
The comics is so interesting.
I know how it ends. I know how that ending happens. And then they
the whole thing that they bring in that even makes her worthy to be Thor, and like her whole subplot in becoming Thor and how it affects her is so interesting.
I wonder if they're going to do that in this next one.
I have no idea.
Like, how much
part of me is like, I kind of hope they do, because that was a big part in Thor, in Thor's identity crisis in the comics, if you remember. I'm a little bit of a comic nerd too, forgot to mention. In the comics, the big part of his identity crisis was he suddenly just becomes not worthy of, Mjolnir anymore.
Original Sin.
I could never actually pronounce the hammer's name.
Mjolnir.
But that's what I said, Mjolnir.
Original Sin, good story. Look it up. Comics Explained. He has a good video on it.
But he's not worthy anymore, right? And he has that whole identity crisis of, well, if I'm not worthy, then am I really the mighty Thor? Then all of a sudden he meets someone else wielding Mjolnir. Yes. Yeah. He meets someone else wielding that, who turns out to be Jane Foster. And I forget exactly how she became worthy, but I remember she was worthy to wield the hammer.
She went up to the hammer and she was like, bro, dude, I got cancer.
But that's it. It's her cancer, and that's the most interesting part, is that...
I don't know if anyone noticed. This is...
That's funny.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about a lot of stuff. I remember I was talking about how I think
Jane Foster.
Oh, that's right. We were talking about Jane Foster and her cancer, and the fact that we were talking about in the new movie. We don't know if they're gonna keep that.
Correct.
But that'd be such a cool plot line anyway.
Thor 1, good movie. I think really just to fix it, rearrange the plot points. I think it'll be fun. Maybe we'll upload.
Well, if you were to give it a score out of 10, I think this is something we should do too. Like, in its current state, before any of our fixing and rewriting.
Here's another reason. I just remember why I really like it. It doesn't have as much of the really bad Marvel comedy.
I genuinely understand that. It definitely is like a bit more.
I noticed the Thor Ragnarok comedy moments so much more this watching.
Well, I also think a part of that is also, maybe it is them projecting it in, I think another part of that...
I wrote a list of jokes I didn't think worked.
I think another part
of them I just wrote was...
Taika Waititi wrote the script too, so there are...
I know, but...
Marvel had to say, it's also Taika.
There's some that are definitely... Like, I don't necessarily think Scourge using a shake weight was the funniest thing. I don't think Thor being scared by Hulk's dick is also the funniest thing. There's just some things that are a bit, childish, but there's, some back and forths that I think are really good. I said in a note that I think you already have enough comedy relief with Korg. let's leave it at that. And I think the big problem has become a lot of Marvel movies want to give every character a comedy relief moment, but we don't need every character to have a comedy relief moment. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely get that, and I do think that is something that Marvel movies
So
are
with that being said, I think because of stuff like that, a lot of early Marvel movies I can enjoy a lot more, because I think scenes get totally derailed by a lot of the, like, to be honest, like, toilet humor, bad middle school jokes. And I get it's meant for people that age because this is like a fun family movie, but I mean, I think people also need to realize that no matter what Marvel does at this point, people will watch their product. They can allow, especially for some of the side stuff, for people to kind of go a little crazier with it, get a little experimental, but instead they keep doing stuff that kind of, I think, ruins characters. And I have endless examples, but I mean, we're going to basically do every single Marvel project, property, and movie and show at some point or another on this podcast, so
for sure.
We don't really overly have to get into every single nitpicky thing right now, but
trust me, we will get to it. We will. We have our gripes with all of that. Now, I think it's safe to say we go to what...
wait. Rating. I honestly...
yes, you're rating.
And I feel like people are going to be really surprised by this. Maybe not. No one knows me right now. But I would actually give it probably either a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10.
Really? You see, that's a bit stronger. I think...
Here's another reason, too. I like that the villain isn't just the Frost Giants, it's Loki, and there's someone brought this up, I forget who it was, but they're like, is one of the most believable villain causes. That he just wants his father to look at him as an equal to Thor. So that's why he's like doing this conniving stuff to win his father's like approval and to like make Thor lesser.
Oh, it definitely is, I think, one of the more tragic like plots for a villain in a Marvel movie. And like it has that nice sense of like yin yang almost. You know what I mean?
I wrote somewhere that I forget what it was, but the idea of Loki finding out his true origin, getting angry at Odin, and then the war of the Frost Giants coming back anyway, destroys Loki's entire purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Because the purpose of Loki was, hey, I took you and adopted you so that way we could kind of have a middle ground person. So if the Frost Giants ever wanted to create a war again, they can't. I have a Frost Giant son. It's supposed to kind of be like almost like you are a peace offering if I need to reveal that ever. But then before that's ever even found out, the war starts up again. Loki finds out his true purpose, realizes, oh, my purpose was meaningless. Because Thor acted rash and started a war.
And I think that sole thing that you just said there is, I think that makes Loki one of the most interesting characters throughout all of the MCU. Even into his own show, is this idea of
And honestly, I don't even think we'll ever talk about Loki on the Rear's Room. It's too good.
No, that show is top tier Marvel, like writing, acting, choreography, hell, color grading.
One of the few Marvel shows that didn't need to be a movie. It works as a show. They have enough things there, and it's enough.
And I'm so excited for season 2. But that's the one thing that I love that Thor 1 set in motion for one of its major players in all of the MCU is this idea of a destiny or a greater purpose, and really what is your calling in this grand universe, in this grand scheme of things. I think it's such an important thing because there are a lot of people that I think find themselves in Loki in that predicament of who am I, you know? And I don't know. I think I remember at first I did not like Loki as a character. It wasn't really until literally Ragnarok when I started going, I think I like Loki as a character a lot.
Yeah, I thought Loki was whatever in Thor. I also watched that movie in when I was 10.
Exactly.
But
who are we to decide whether he was a good character or not?
I didn't like him. I don't think I actually ever really liked him until the Loki show.
Really?
I kind of always thought he was whatever. I didn't hate him. I just kind of thought he was whatever. And I later on I got more appreciation for the first Thor movie, but yeah. Anyways, Thor 3,
Arguably, the best
the
one.
best one.
I know you and I have some differing opinions on that.
Overall, I think mostly, I think there's just some bad comedy moments. And there's some things where it suffers, and I think it mostly suffers because of Thor 2. Because Thor 2 wasn't a great movie, and to set up this movie, there should have been things that happened in Thor 2. And I told you that the monologue in the very beginning where Thor's in that cage and he's like, I bet you're wondering how I got here. And he's talking about what he's been up to.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of stuff that happened in Age of Ultron. It's almost like they got such a bad reception for Thor: Dark World that they said, all right, let's set up stuff that should have been done in Thor 2 and Age of Ultron so he can do a cool adventure in Thor 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like just all of what they quickly smushed into that opening monologue and what he kind of loosely did here and there in Age of Ultron should have just been what Thor: A Dark World was. But
we will get way more into that in a second.
yeah,
you bet you and me.
I think there's just, I don't know. I think with the overly funny stuff.
Yeah.
Considering everyone Thor's losing and everything Thor's losing, I think this was like a big thing I heard a lot when the movie first came out. But people were kind of always saying like, shouldn't Thor be sadder?
Yeah.
Because he's just kind of like, hey, me and Hulk are just palling around, and it's so, like you're most of your family's dead.
Well, here's the thing that I think they set up. Maybe for better or for worse, and I liked it personally in Infinity War and in Endgame, but I like that they set up Thor as this person who genuinely has all these different types of problems, and again, I think they explored it way more in Endgame than any of these other movies, but he has all these genuine problems that any other person would have, and just like any other person, he's scared of even confronting them. Like Thor, who's arguably the strongest Avenger, is scared to confront his own personal problems and thus stuffs it down with alcohol, stuffs it down with fast food, stuffs it down with, for better or for worse, Fortnite.
I mean, it's a good coping mechanism.
But I like that. It really humanizes someone who genuinely isn't human.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's such a cool thing that they did. It's just, I think you're right. The way that Ragnarok had to happen after Dark World, it just sets up this stark contrast. Because the Thor in Ragnarok is not the same one that you see in the Dark World, and even in the original Thor.
And honestly, I kind of miss aspects of that. I don't need Thor to be overly thespian, but I don't know. I want him to be more, I don't even know if thespian is actually really the right word there, but
there it is.
You touching me with your toes right now?
Sorry.
Is that what that whole? I kept hearing
you kept hearing all rustling. Like,
I have my feet are kind of like crisscross applesauce a little bit right now, but
I was trying to play
that's so funny. I heard you. I kept hearing your end of the tablecloth getting moved around, and I was like, "What is he doing?
He's trying to play
can he get comfortable?"
I was trying to play footsies with you.
Well, your drink's almost gone, so.
And yours isn't.
I'm like 2/3 of the way.
I'll drink to that. Another brewski for the boyski?
Another brewski for the boyski.
Hey!
I don't know. I kind of miss... Because it kind of became Thor's just a silly guy, which is fine, but I kind of miss him being so...
overly serious?
He doesn't have to be serious, because I really liked in Thor 1 when he was like... kind of almost like a charming guy, in the sense that he was like... talking to Jane all like, he was like, oh, just you wait till you see Asgard. And he's like, oh, I'll have you fly with me. And he's kind of like a goofy, fun guy. That's fine. I just kind of miss the parts where he's like, I don't know, it feels like he's just really stupid.
I get that.
Because, like, he is. He's a fish out of water. He's stupid. He doesn't understand the social cues and interactions and the systems we have set up as a society on Earth, but...
he always brags and boasts too. You're
smart.
Right.
He has a lot. He's like 1,000 years old.
He travels the universe all these times and he understands all these different things and all of that. But like,
Make him, I don't know, just make him a little bit
Make him
smarter.
stupid.
Just make him a little smarter.
Yeah, make him smart. Make him smart.
Make him a little smarter.
No, I do also, as much as I love Ragnarok, and you know I love Ragnarok, you're right.
It's right there. It's right there.
The movie.
It's right there.
The one.
The movie's right there. It's right there.
I also have my fair share of gripes with it. Stuff that maybe is a bit more nitpicky per se, kind of like your aspect with the comedy and stuff, and I do get that. I'm personally not as fazed by the comedy in this movie. Shout out Younger Brother and Sister Gang, where all my younger siblings have that type of comedy, so therefore I see it all the time and I'm kind of just used to it.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I do have.
I just bully my younger siblings until they don't like it anymore.
Oh, I just bully my younger siblings regardless.
Oh, that's good too.
You know, we're good older siblings.
All right. I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
Open up your brewski.
A brewski for the whiskey. Brewski.
Oh, you got it. There it is.
Hey, brewski for the whiskey. No, but I did have my fair share of gripes with this movie, honestly. And you want to know what my
you know what?
one
I
is?
just realized something. Hold on.
Oh.
Now the viewers know. If they want to skip ahead in the video.
You are now at Thor 3 if you're in the video. If you're in the audio,
I mean,
congrats.
hopefully you knew
made
it regardless because we've been talking about Ragnarok. But now if you're using the video and you're scrubbing ahead and you're like, I want to see when they talk about my favorite Marvel movie, you can get to Thor 3. That's not me mocking you.
It's a good one.
No, it's me mocking you. But yeah, video version available on our YouTube channel, Red Greens.
Now, here's my thing, though. Thor Ragnarok. Fucking let me talk about it. The thing that I
did you want to talk about Thor Ragnarok?
The thing that I like, though, or the thing that I don't like, this is my big thing. Honestly, I feel like the Grandmaster's kind of wasted.
Oh my god, right? Dude, I love Jeff Goldblum. I will watch that man paint a house.
Yeah.
I will watch him watch paint dry. He could do anything, and he's the most entertaining, interesting person. The Grandmaster is like an imposing force. And not that he's not powerful in the movie. I mean, he controls the whole planet. It's just, make it seem like he does a little bit more.
Yeah, he's kind of, but like, that's the other side of it. While, like, yeah, like in the comics, he is like a bigger, force and threat than what they make him in the movie. Excuse me.
You know what? Here's the thing. I'm okay with him not being blue. I just don't want Gorilla God Butcher to have tentacles, okay? Jeff Goldblum can be skin colored. I just want tentacles, okay?
Here's the other side of it, though. While yes, there's so much more they could have done with his character, I felt like because of the Grandmaster in the comics, right? I don't even care about that. I felt robbed that there was not more Jeff Goldblum in this movie, and there was already a good amount of Jeff Goldblum in this movie. I wanted more because anytime he was on screen, I was having a blast.
Yeah.
I think that movie was at its peak when Jeff Goldblum was interacting with quite literally anyone who would interact with
I also think one thing to make it even better, too, is you could add more of him in the movie and make him more intimidating by just having him have more of a, him more of a presence in stopping them. Mm-hmm. And I think, just focusing on, he's already a very goofy guy, but I think if he just suddenly switches as a person to serious...
Oh, that would make him so intimidating.
I would be terrified of... He'd probably be one of the most terrifying villains ever.
Anytime a villain does that, any TV show, any movie or whatever...
Pennywise!
I could think of a dozen different examples where they... well, here's the thing. Even his Goofy is creepy Goofy because they set up that atmosphere.
You remember the first scene of the new It from 2015 or whatever, where
17.
he's like...
2017.
Was it 2017?
Yeah.
Anyways,
2019
feels older than
sequel.
that. But, oh my god, you're right. Anyways, the scene where he's like, do you want your bowl? Right? And then he's laughing, and then suddenly his laugh leaves and he's just serious.
But here's the thing. I agree that's a good example, except that the atmosphere they set up is already creepy.
I guess, yeah.
It's a rainstorm. He's in a sewer drain, and there's a little kid. It is just pouring rain. Nobody else is around, right? Versus if you can have someone like Jeff Goldblum's character in that movie.
on the keyboards.
Just on the keyboard, goofing off, doing his thing with everyone around, everyone watching. And he's being this fun, goofy guy, and then all of a sudden and switches to the coldest motherfucker you have ever seen.
Imagine
Jeff Goldblum going from his character that you see in Ragnarok
to Tom Cruise COVID rant.
No.
Imagine that.
Imagine that, or Ragnarok Goldblum, right?
Uh-huh.
And you go from Ragnarok Goldblum to fucking Gus Fring from Breaking Bad. Like, that level of just cold emotion.
No emotion. If it left it,
that would be
amazing.
terrifying.
And I think if you just showed more of that and you let Jeff Goldblum, I feel like they just said, Jeff, just have fun with it, which is like fun, and that was cool, and it added a lot to the character in the movie. But I think if you said, Jeff, let's have fun with it, but then occasionally you're just like, all right, Jeff, just go off, like make us scared. And stuff. He's a great actor. I love that guy.
Jeff Goldblum is top tier.
The World According to Jeff Goldblum on National Geographic.
I love that show.
I fall asleep.
I'm
to
on
it every
season
night
2
almost.
right now.
I think I am
Still
too.
haven't finished it, but season 1
I haven't
was
seen
so
it all
good.
either. I just watched the miniature episode.
Oh my god!
Fun episode.
So
all the
good.
episodes are fun.
Off topic though.
You guys haven't seen it.
Disney again.
I know you have Disney Plus because everybody does, but so yeah, I think if they did that, it gives you more opportunity to use the character, be more entertained by it, and make his presence more intimidating. Because it kind of like, I know they're all like enslaved on that planet, but it didn't seem that bad.
Yeah, no.
Like,
for
it seems like a
people
big
who were
party.
his, like, slaves per se, it seemed like they were all having a lot of fun.
It was like a giant rave, nonstop.
Just with also gladiatorial combat.
Because like he said, what was the line where he was like, I was thinking about having a public execution today, right? And he's having fun with it, and it's kind of like, oh, so this guy is crazy, and he's not a good guy because he's like does these killings willy nilly. But like, if you had his killings willy nilly, like sometimes he's happy with it, sometimes he's genuinely like just emotionless and cold. I think just like the randomness of it would just make him a little bit more intimidating.
That'd be
I think
so
would be
raw.
a little bit more fun.
Honestly.
Beyond that, I think another missed opportunity was with the Warriors 3. Mm-hmm. Hela just said, nah.
Yeah.
And they're dead. And, like, I get it because they're trying to establish Hela is, like, the most powerful thing ever. She caught Thor's hammer, crushed it.
You know what's bad, though?
What?
I'm really going to out myself here. When Hela initially killed the Warriors 3, when I first watched the movie, I didn't know that was the Warriors 3. See,
I mean,
that's how little I cared about Thor as a character after Ragnarok.
They're not
the Dark
important
World.
characters either. It's just in the previous movies, all you could talk about was these are, like, besides Thor and Loki, because
They are the characters.
they're the
And
king's
even then,
sons.
they're
And,
like Thor's
these are
best
like
friends.
these are the good warriors besides the main guys. They're B plot best warriors, which is like
They're
so
like the
you know.
Hound Commandos of Asgard, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? They're like
yeah.
the good warriors and they're
Anyway.
good friends of Thor.
I just think that they should have. I mean, they have a French guy, they have an Asian guy, and they have a white guy, and then they have a woman. I guess that's probably like Bucky,
Yeah.
which is funny because.
Anyway.
I just feel like I'm all fine with them dying. They don't add a lot to the movie. They're just there. Especially in the second movie, they were just there.
Oh, for sure in the second movie, they were just there.
But I just think like you could have had a cool, just like final moment.
Send off.
Like have it be more than literally Hela walks in the
will not
portal.
pass. So that was the last line from any of them, right? Is you will not pass or whatever, right?
Yeah, something like
that. It's like, dude.
It's like I just think like have like a all out battle. Like have the whatever pawn soldiers
Go
die
crazy.
immediately. Who cares? But like at least Hogun stood a little bit of a chance.
Mm-hmm.
The last guy who died, but yeah, I don't know. I all I could think was like because like there's some moments where it's like, oh, this is dragging, but I know it's because you're setting up to build for a really cool action sequence where it's like, oh, Loki's not coming with, but then he shows up with everybody, and it's like, oh, that's cool for the final battle.
And that was one of the things that I like, touching on my thing from the previous one we talked about, Thor 1, is that sense of him finding purpose in actually being by his brother's side for once.
Yeah.
And helping his brother out and being there more than he ever has been after he got his ass whooped and
Yeah,
kind of
straight up,
did it to him.
Thor just straight up said, you don't have to come.
Yeah. Like, genuinely, I love
then
that
it came
whole
anyway.
like character arc for him specifically in this movie, where he goes from being the bad guy and falling into the same traps, and even then, the kind of meta commentary on, well, look, you're falling into the same traps. You know what I mean? Like, I saw this one coming from a mile away, or whatever Thor says, basically just saying, hey, like, I knew you were gonna fucking do this to me.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that because I do like the idea that. I don't know if this is exactly what was intended, but I love the idea of just Taika saying, like, man, they're always doing the same thing with Loki. I'm going to call him out on it.
Yeah.
I just love that idea that, like, Taika's sitting there one night writing this movie and goes, fuck this.
So I feel like there was two things I wrote down. One thing was kind of... Odin said, I couldn't stop her, so I imprisoned her. Sounds like you stopped her. Because like all I could think of was like, he was like, oh, she became too powerful, I couldn't stop her, so I imprisoned her. So you stopped her. It just sounds like he didn't when he... It sounded like he said... Really what he should have said was, oh, I couldn't kill her, so I imprisoned her. Yeah. And then there's just like two things, I guess, beyond that where I was kind of like, I don't know why they had to do it, but I don't know why they had to cut Thor's hair unless it was just Chris Hemsworth saying, I don't want to put on a wig anymore.
I think it was, from what I remember, he complained a lot about the wig.
Which is like, all right.
I get it.
I like him with long hair. My favorite look of Thor in any movie so far has been him at the very start of Thor 3 when he has like the just like chill looking, not overly armored up vibe, sleeveless, red cape still, long hair and the ponytail or whatever.
Honestly,
with the skull strapped to his back. He just looks so cool.
The skull strapped to his back was so cool. But I mean, even then, like, I can't lie, they're bringing that back kind of in the new one. I mean,
oh yeah, I saw that.
His design in the new one with the
collar
hair,
or whatever.
he's got the collar. Hell, I even like him with the Ravager jacket on in some of those scenes. That's so raw.
Very Big Trouble in Little China vibe. I like it.
Yeah, I'm bucking with it.
And then the other thing I said was, why does she have to be their sister?
Yeah, like...
It felt a little... It's not like it takes away from the movie, but it doesn't add either. If anything, it makes me question, how did they not know anything about her?
For as long as they've been alive, because it's well known. Thor makes it known a couple times where he's like, well, I'm thousands of years old.
Because they do have a sister that they don't immediately know about in the comics. It's just, it's not Hela. So I feel like it felt...
If it is Hela, you know, the goddess of death...
Just say she's the goddess of death. I'm like, okay, I get it. She's like, woo,
Ooh.
you know? And
She's
just say,
like,
like, hey, like, you could say, hey, me and some of the gods at the start of Asgard really worked together, and she became too powerful, and I was kind of like, hey, you know?
I think it'd be... And I get it's like the, oh, well, that's before you were born or whatever, right? But I think it would be clear-cut different, and it would be a completely different story and vibe, and I think it would make more sense if it was, like, Odin's sister. You know what I mean? Like, their aunt.
Well,
at that point, then it would make much more sense that Odin could cover it up from everyone, considering he'd be so young at that time.
There's a story in the comics where Odin's brother comes back from, like, an exile thing.
Yeah.
And he, like... I can't remember his name, but he's like... he, like, makes a bunch of hammers and like, gives them out to characters. And, like, I think Juggernaut gets a hammer at one point, and I think, like, the Thing gets a hammer, and he, like, corrupts them, and it's, like, crazy. He goes off, and I'm like, you could basically just do that and have it be like, oh, she's my sister. I really like that. I think that works way better than it being their sister.
Yeah. Have her being their aunt or whatever, and... Odin's sister, because I think like that would make
more
much more sense.
I think too.
Even then, I'm thinking logistically, if that's like Odin's firstborn, right? And you're telling me half of fucking Asgard has been around as long as Odin. How is everyone just forgot?
Everyone's like, hello.
If you make it Odin's sister, you could have it be in his younger years before he's king of Asgard. Yeah. He like covers everything up with her.
Yeah.
That would make so much more sense to me narratively than it being... But then again, I also get if you're going for the route of Infinity War and the fact that Thor really opening up to the Guardians and really bonding with them, hence leading to Thor 4 and also the qualms and everything in Endgame, it makes a lot more sense that it's their sister so he can connect with Gamora based on family issues, you know?
Yeah.
Because it makes a lot more sense, I think, that way to say, oh, family issues, I get what you're going through, than if it was their aunt.
So, yeah.
I mean, you could go either way, but personally, I think if you're talking narratively within Ragnarok and not narratively within interpersonal connections through the entire MCU, the aunt is the way to go. Just clear, cookie cutter, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my last thought, and I think we can move on, unless you have anything else. My last thought is I just love Clancy Brown as Firelord Surtur.
Oh, that's so funny.
He's just like, hey, what's up? I'm Mr. Krabs. Also, I'm gonna kill you. And I love Firelords. I love the visual of in the Thor comics a giant ice themed character is there, and a giant fire themed character is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fun. And I remember thinking like, oh, I really like the idea of Firelord Surtur, and then he was in this movie, and I was like, oh, it's fun. He's a little looks a little weird.
Yeah.
He just kind of looks like it's hard to look at and distinguish what he is. But that being said, I love Firelord Surtur and I love Clancy Brown. I stand for Clancy Brown.
Yeah. Honestly, I think this one, I think kind of like Thor 1. I mean, Thor 1 was rearranging the story a little bit into the different acts, but this one I think is more just like very nitpicky.
It's very nitpicky.
Really?
It's like
so nitpicky.
Keeping the whole story, but it's like change one or two aspects here and there. And,
yeah.
And
I'm doing the synopsis type theme for the Patreon, which we'll talk about later. But I mean, yeah. I mean, this one has so much less than Thor 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the only other thing to do at this point is, do you got your score for this movie in particular?
I think I would honestly keep it equal with
you
Thor
would,
1.
You would keep it a 7.5 or an 8?
Yeah. I think I would give it a bump because of how much I love Taika Waititi, though.
So what would you say out of 10?
Maybe an 8.5. Give it a little bit more than than Thor 1, but...
And honestly, this one I agree with you. 8.5 out of 10 is very fair, I think, for this movie.
What'd you say for Thor 1?
I said 7 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, I think...
I think
you know what? I think.
I think it's time we talk about everyone's favorite Thor movie, the best one of all time, Thor: The Dark World.
Open up mine.
Get your second one now, because let me tell you, for Thor: The Dark World, I feel like I'll need to be drunk.
Talking about Thor: Dark World. Now, here's the thing. I think there's a lot of potential here because I don't know why they went this route with it, but Malekith is basically he's just like, hey, I want to take over and I want to keep using magical items to do so. So, because I didn't know this, because I'm not the biggest knowledgeable guy on Thor stuff, but I was looking into it while watching Thor 2 to gain more comic book understanding of the source material. And you wouldn't immediately suspect it, but he's used a bunch of different magical items here and there to try to get one-ups, but the main first one he used was the Eternal Winter casket thing that they used in Thor 1.
Really?
And you would think that would be a frost giant thing, but that was the main thing. He like broke it open on Earth and caused like a huge snowstorm on Earth. That was like his big first calamity thing or whatever. So I was like, all right, well, very understandable. You used it for the Frost Giants. It's more logical for the Frost Giants to want to use it in Thor 1. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
Right? So then you go, oh, well, we need to introduce these Infinity Stones, so let's give it to him. He also, reality totally makes sense because, hey, this is a more magical themed, like mystical, like character because of like the mythology and whatnot. So it all fits and should make sense. It's just not good.
That's the thing. I think the characterization and the way people are supposed to act and things that they should be doing are there. I agree. It's just the story not there.
You know what I think one of the biggest problems is? This whole I think they wanted to try to give Jane things to do in this movie.
Because here's the thing though, like, if they fucking played it smart, they wouldn't have to fucking struggle to give her shit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just they had to do like, oh, the worlds are aligning, so now there's like random portals that are strangely convenient for plot's sake for things to happen. That appear randomly and you can't see them, but they're there, and that made her get the goo. Just like give her the goo in a different. Have Thor be like, okay, I finally dealt with the things that I had to do on my chore list. I'm gonna bring Jane to Asgard, and because of that, just have like the Reality Stone be in Odin's vault or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, just like do something else other than this weird, because they kept trying to like say, I wrote this down because it made me laugh so much. They are like, oh, it's aligning. This happens once every 10,000 years. Very convenient for plot as well that this is the 10,000 year, and they're just like, oh, they're aligning. Reality is being warped and everything, and now portals are everywhere, and there's literally a line where they're saying like there's gravimetric anomalies, spatial extrusions, and I was like, just say science words and we'll go, oh, things are happening. I literally just wrote that, and I was like, these are words that were said in the movie, and I was just like, don't try to explain it with science words. Gravimetric anomalies and spatial extrusions.
Here's the thing, though, right? Is I can respect what Thor: The Dark World was setting out to do. I can't respect how it did it. I gotta be honest. And I understand it. At this point, you had the first big tease of Thanos with Avengers, right? And you're fresh off the heels of Iron Man 3. So you gotta make another sequel, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to top Iron Man 3, which very heavily ties up a lot of Iron Man's whole thing from Avengers with his PTSD?
Great movie, by the way.
Hot take. Best Iron Man movie.
I think I'm the same thing with Thor. 1 and 3 are basically tied for me.
But going back to Thor, since that's what we're talking about.
No, hang on. Let's
we gotta fucking change it too. God damn.
Let's not just change this to Thor 2, but let's just start talking about Iron Man.
Who? What does that say?
I can't spell.
Who turned out lights?
That's what I think this title should be.
Oh,
Thor 2,
shit.
Who turned out the lights? Oh, why is my marker wet?
Why is your marker wet? What
I think it's the condensation from my
the
water.
brewski. But no, I gotta be real. The one thing that I like Thor: The Dark World trying to do is how do you top, arguably, I think, one of the best movies at that point in the MCU with Iron Man 3, even though I think at the time it was criminally overhated. You top it by trying to set up Thanos even more. And how do you do that?
I honestly think the opposite.
You start introducing these Infinity Stones, right? And I understand that's what their mindset was going into this.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Oh, you're trying to say they're... Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that's what they should have done. I'm saying
okay.
I understand
I thought that's what
their
you were saying they should have done. I thought you were saying they should lean more into it. I was like, I don't think that.
I understand that was their mindset, is we got to start introducing Thanos, but we also got to top Iron Man 3. How do we do that? We introduce Infinity Stones. We make it, like, the big thing of this movie, right? And the big kicker is you don't get it really revealed until after the problem is solved, right? Because goop, cool, and then you find out, oh shit, that
One
goop
down,
is the Reality
5
Stone.
to go.
But here's the thing. The best part of that movie, and the best scene of this movie, is the end credit scene with the Collector. You know what the issue with that is, too?
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense why Lady Sif gives him the goddamn Reality Stone.
My last note on here is, to give up the stone to the Collector, but why? Odin would think it's safer in Asgard, and I know Loki's technically Odin, but still, Loki would want the power for himself. So both don't make sense. Lady Sif is like, it's not safe to keep two Infinity Stones so close together. I don't know. Maybe this all-powerful being would disagree.
Well, here's the other issue. It's the goddamn Collector. And everyone and their fucking mama in the goddamn MCU acknowledges that the Collector is slimy, scummy, and not to be trusted, right?
And they're like, hey, let's not collect all 6 of these in the same place. You won't do that, right, Collector, who wants to get all of everything? I'm just saying.
Max, I don't know. That doesn't make sense, man. No, but it's like, god damn. Like, shit. Like, it's so mind-numbingly stupid. And the issue is that genuinely, this could have been such a cool movie to start introducing the fucking Infinity Stones in. And even the Collector thing could make sense, I think, if you, A, didn't have Lady Sif do it, and B, you didn't have the dumbass explanation of, oh, it's bad to keep 2 Infinity Stones in the same place. No shit, Sherlock. Let me go give it to the fucking Collector. Where the fuck is your brain? It's like, here's what they thought when they did this movie. I will say this is my practice when I go to write any script, right? Mm-hmm. Any script, whether it gets made or not, whether it's a short film, TV show, feature length. Here's my process. My number one thing is I take my characters and I have character sheets fully developed, and these are my reference sheets for my characters, right? This is how my character thinks, this is how my character talks, this is how they act, this is what kind of smart they are. Are they street? Are they book smart, you know? Mm-hmm. All of that. I plan out characters heavily, right? And you saw my script writing rules. My number one goddamn rule in script writing on my phone.
Number one goddamn rule
in all of script writing on my phone is that you respect the characters and their interpersonal relationships. You don't just randomly switch characters and their personality traits and who they are, and you don't just disrespect the characters by having their interpersonal relationships just not make any goddamn sense, right? Mm-hmm. In Thor: The Dark World, they actively set out to make every character as stupid as fucking possible and make the goddamn worst decisions, and on top of that, disrespect every fucking character along the way. I genuinely don't know how this movie got made, let alone, you gotta think about this, and this is my number one thought process whenever I watch a movie like this.
And I thought my Gore the God Butcher
this is bad, yes.
Was intense.
You gotta think. Someone wrote the script, and producers went, this is it. They got the director involved, and the director went, this is it. Then they got the talent involved, and the talent went, this is it.
This is getting scary.
Then you got everything done, and you present it to the fucking studio. Kevin fucking Feige, the goddamn legend, love him. You present it to him, and you present it to Marvel. Kevin, this is your one goddamn miss. You went, it's good, it's greenlit, it's ready to send off. What the fuck was everyone on when they made this movie?
So I'll take it you don't like this one.
No, not in the goddamn slightest.
Now, it's interesting. When I was watching this one, did I like it? No. But I liked it more than I remember.
I know. If anything, I hated it more than I remembered.
I don't think my score of it would ever change, but I just remember watching it and going, I don't remember watching it. I was like, I don't hate this as much as I thought I would rewatching it. But I think it's because I was starting to recognize there's potential here for something greater, but it's just not. It's not there. I just have so many things written down that I don't know. Like I wrote Thor will never be king because there's just too much shit going on that like stops him. Because they're always like, all right, you're gonna be king this movie, and then he's like, nah, next one. I like how stupid it is that everyone's like, Thor, stop focusing on Earth. You need to focus on the other 9 realms. He has not been back to Earth since Avengers 1 because he's been focusing on the other 9 realms. Literally, that's what he's doing.
Hey, remember that time when I said that you should respect inter-character personalities and relationships as well as make the characters consistent with how they view the world and view each other?
Yeah.
Again, they made they literally said, oh, brain, garbage can. Fuck everyone. Fuck it. We don't need them to be smart or make sense. We gotta set up Infinity Stones.
Thor, stop.
We gotta set up Infinity Stones.
Stop going to and caring about Earth. He's been to Earth twice. and hasn't been back since Avengers. And in fact, they're all like, you gotta stop caring about Jane. He's been around Jane once. He saw her in Thor 1. He saw her in Thor 1 and then left, came back in Avengers to deal with Loki. And the reason she's mad at him in Thor Dark World is like, you were in New York and you didn't even say hello. Like, what is everybody saying? Why are they so mad at Thor? He's doing exactly what you're telling him to do. So, I don't know.
I think the best way to sum up the rewriting part of this goddamn movie, we've already touched on. Whatever happens in this movie, don't. Age of Ultron mixed with the opening monologue of Thor Ragnarok. There you go. Dark World.
Okay, here. We'll get into
and
like...
you know what? Let's change it. It shouldn't be called Thor the Dark World. It should be called Thor 2 Who Turned Out the Fucking Lights.
Thor 2 Who Turned... Thor 2 Who Turned Out the Lights, I think, is gonna be a masterpiece. We'll get into it, but before we do, I think I just want to go out. I want to go over my laundry list of complaints. Are you ready for this?
Show the goddamn camera again. Show them, because I don't
Thor
know if I can really
Thor
see.
1. Thor 1. I had one page of ideas here, and then this is a remapping of the plot. But also, half of these are things I liked. Like I pointed out, I said I think the fact that Loki's purpose got destroyed by the Frost Giant War coming back was an amazing thing that they don't even touch upon. It's just there. The fact that Loki's whole purpose gets... I was like, holy crap, I feel bad for Loki.
Hold it up again. Again, I want to reiterate. One fucking page here.
I don't know.
On the left, one page of strictly just things that are about the movie. The second page right here, the second page is strictly for the rewriting part of this goddamn show, which we touched upon.
I didn't rewrite Thor. I just complained the entire
Thor 2
pages.
You can't rewrite. You just delete the goddamn movie.
All right, so here, you want me to speed run this?
Go ahead.
All right.
Speed run your goddamn list, because I already have down our rewriting.
Odin should be meaner to Loki. He kind of is like, hey son, you know how you try to take over an entire realm? What the heck? He was like, kind of, he should have just been meaner. You know what I mean? I just think he should have been meaner when he was talking. And like, because notoriously, and it doesn't have to be, not everything has to match the comics exactly. Odin is a terrible father in the comics. Oh. He is a horrifically emotionally abusive person, and he does not care about his sons. And I think that should have reflected onto Loki when, you know, he tried to take over an entire realm. 2, Thor will never be king. I already said that, but every movie they're like, all right, you'll be king this movie, and then it's like, no, it's just not the right time. 3, Thor, stop focusing on Earth, focus on the 9 realms. Bro, Thor still hasn't gone to Earth. He's only gone to the other worlds. I already said that too. 4th thing, how did Darcy crash into this 5-star dinner? They're like, also that was weird too. Jane's having this date, and it's like the nicest restaurant I've ever seen. They're overlooking like a bay. It's like white everywhere, and it's just like, oh, they only have 2 options here. It's beef or fish or whatever. It's like, that's only if you're paying for an experience type restaurant. How did Darcy just crash into that? Also, why are they there? Why? It's just like a weird choice for a scientist who's been known to struggle with money and resources.
Yeah.
Next thing. Oh, this is a positive, but it's not because of this movie. I said I liked how Darcy switched into a science field. It's kind of this, but in the first movie, she's a political science major. In the second movie, she's still helping Jane, and by... what is it? WandaVision. She's a theoretical physicist with a doctorate.
I think fucking dope.
I think it's cool that because of Thor 1, she was like, oh, I need to get into this more. This is awesome. I think that's a cool character thing that I don't know how many people realize that they just go, oh, Darcy's back for WandaVision. I'm like, no, she completely changed her life because of Thor, which I realized that while watching this movie, but it's not a good note on this movie.
Yeah, it's a good note on WandaVision.
And then I said, so are they not just going to explain the invisible portals? Because they really don't. They just show up, and they're just not explained till like halfway through the movie. Yeah. That's convenient. First portal Jane goes through, an Infinity Stone. The very first one. She goes through she accidentally goes through the first portal ever. There's an Infinity Stone.
Max, don't you realize...
Thanos is so stupid. He should have just found invisible portals.
Exactly. And listen, you're acting like it's such a bad thing. But for the movie to have the plot, stuff has to happen, right? Who cares if it makes sense or if it's explained?
Also, I don't know if you noticed this. I wrote this down. I don't know if it's a continuity thing, but I swear when she touches the red goo, her costume changes to what she wears when she's in Asgard. But she was just wearing like street Earth clothes. So I was like, did they just reuse a shot from later because they didn't have it?
I was like up to here when I pressed play on the movie. For the sole fact that I had to press play on the movie.
You could say, well, it's the Reality Stone. Shut up. I hate when there's a...
it can be whatever
when we talk about...
When you're using the fucking stone, not when you're touching his goop.
I'll talk about this when we talk about Joker, but I hate when people are like, oh, well, you know, reality is like whatever, so continuity's like, when there's continuity errors, it adds... Shut the fuck up. It does not. It's people being lazy and not good at their job.
The only time you could ever make that fucking excuse is for something when it needs to be surreal, but even then it needs to make sense within the world of that surrealness. You know what I mean? And that just doesn't fucking make sense in this movie.
Also, Thor leaves in Avengers Age of Ultron because he's like, oh, there's some evil shit going on. But none of it was the Dark Elves. And the Dark Elves wake up separately from all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Why wasn't the reason he left because the elves were resurfacing?
Well, he had his visions.
But why weren't the visions the elves
resurfacing? No, you don't understand the visions.
Oh, I forgot. Malekith used the Reality Stone to make the ether, or did he make the Reality Stone? Because they said, oh, Malekith forged this weapon. So does that mean that Malekith took the Reality Stone and made it into a lesser version of itself? Or are they saying he made the Reality Stone and then they just retconned it later when they said they were made from the Big Bang? Either way, dumb. How did Curse get captured? Did they not take off his mask? Curse is the character that is the one dark elf who uses the stone that makes him all powerful. It makes him the Hulk. And he sneaks into the Asgardian prison with all the other people they were capturing. Did they not worry, because they're like, hey, the Dark Elves are resurfacing, we can't let them into Asgard, it's really bad if they do. They get this new prisoner they don't know anything about. They don't lift his mask and see, oh, he's a Dark Elf. Also, he's profusely bleeding out of his abdomen. Maybe we should do something about that, because he was hiding the curse stone in his abdomen.
Understand
the visions? Oh, okay.
And the visions.
This one, all I wrote was Dark Elf ships look dumb.
They do. They're fucking dumb.
And then I wrote, I know they are supposed to be aliens looked at like gods and not actually all-powerful, but I want more mystical magic. Because literally the Dark Elves have laser guns. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, make them fight with swords and magic stuff.
And that's the one thing that I'll say is, Thor's a missed opportunity to really delve more into the magical, mystical elements, especially in the first two, than what they did in even Ragnarok and even just the trailers for Love and Thunder. You know what I mean? You've seen the fucking trailers. They got fucking goddamn goats.
Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. That's their names.
Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. Basically pulling the fucking Asgard tours along. That's the funniest shit to me.
That's personally Thor's pet.
Oh, I'm aware. I just like the idea that his pets.
He has pet goats.
He has two pet goats that are the ones that pull the chariot for Asgard tours on New Asgard and Earth.
And he's going to use it to go on his adventure in this movie.
But that's so funny to me. And so that's my issue, mainly even with this movie, like you're saying. They have all the magical, mystical elements with the Dark Elves and stuff. Why the fuck not use them?
I just read my next two notes.
Oh, no.
I wrote, why are there no guards with the Queen? Because she dies. Spoiler alert. She dies.
What?
Because she's alone. And I know the guards are probably busy, but there should be guards with the royal family members.
Is it bad that I remember her dying more from Endgame than this movie? I
forgot she was
died, and then in Endgame when she this is the one.
Thor's like, but mom, you're gonna die, and she's like, whatever.
Yeah, when he was like, oh, this is the day that my mom dies, I was like, oh yeah, that's a thing that happened.
Yeah.
I just completely forgot that fucking happened until Endgame, and now whenever I remember Thor's mom is dead, it's specifically because of Endgame, not because of the Dark
I saw-
World, where it actually happened.
I forgot how it happened, and when we were watching the movie, she like starts fighting the Dark Elves with a sword. So then I wrote, Frigga, which is her name, by the way, Frigga ain't your granddad's queen. And then I immediately wrote, uh-oh, because she dies. Immediately after for a couple sword things. Then there's like that scene where literally Darcy's like, oh man, we gotta find Eric. I wonder where he is. He's not answering his phone. And then she turns around because her intern's like, hey, check this out. And I wrote, convenient news on Eric re-airing specifically when Darcy is looking for Eric. Because that had already aired that news story, so they decided to re-air that news story specifically when she needed to talk to him. I wrote, I just realized they told Hogun, the only minority, to not be in this movie.
I didn't even know that.
At the start of this movie, all three of the Warriors 3 are there. And then they say, hey, Hogun, go home, be with your people. And then the other two of the Warriors 3 and Sif are in this movie and interact with it, except for Hogun. So the only minority character, other than Heimdall, I guess, like they just said, hey, Hogun, don't be in this movie. Just wanted to point that out. Then I said, ooh, heist explanation scene. I know there was a heist explanation scene in the movie, but I honestly don't remember it or when it happened. Yeah. Thor needs Loki to be... Oh, yeah, I said Thor needs to use Loki for a secret passageway out of Asgard. And he breaks him out to steal a ship, and then he uses that as a distraction they then jump off the ship, and they let the ship go off, and then they use the secret passage. But also, I'm pretty sure they could have just flown away in that ship. They didn't need to convolute it and stuff. Oh, that was the heist. Was Loki's secret passage part of the Convergence? Because that doesn't make sense. The Convergence was adding these portals to different realms and worlds, and Loki's secret passage in and out of Asgard was a portal similar to the Convergence. But that doesn't make sense because the Convergence just started. So how did he use secret passages in and out of Asgard in Thor 1 if that's what it is? You know. Shouldn't they fall through a portal after getting Eric out? I don't remember what that means. But, oh, that's right. They walk out and, like, these birds fly through a portal in the middle of the sky. And then they're like, where'd they go? And then the birds fly out from underneath them. Shouldn't they be falling through a portal? They're standing on the portal.
I'm going to be real. My big rant took me out.
Oh, yeah. And then I wrote, there's literally, like, 8 elves left. Is Asgard really that afraid of 8 elves? Because by this point in the movie, there's literally like a handful of elves still alive from the first attack, because a lot of them did get like killed, and it shows all the elves talking at one point. There's literally like 8 of them, and Asgard's still like, oh man, we gotta be ready. If they come back, we're probably gonna die. There's like 8. Just make it be that there's more elves. That's not. You have. There's 8 elves left. Are you telling me all of Asgard is like, whoa, there's 8 elves left?
Oh my god.
Also, when Loki dies, fake dies, he turns like gray. Why?
He's a frost giant.
So he should turn blue.
No.
Okay. There's a lot of really convenient portals. I just put that as a note because there's a lot of convenient portals that just so happen to move the plot forward. Oh, and then I got to the note where I wrote gravimetric anomalies, spatial extrusions. Then I wrote the elves' laser guns and black hole grenades are more effective than Malekith wielding the Infinity Stone. They killed more people and were more effective with their base weapons than an entire Infinity Stone being wielded by the most powerful Dark Elf.
He's a bitch.
And then I wrote, again, these portals are extremely convenient. And then I wrote, so why did that kill Malekith? I don't remember what killed Malekith. But I just
But it
remember
killed
it
him.
making not making sense that killed him.
It killed him.
Oh, that's right. His big sword-shaped ship fell on him.
Oh yeah.
And then the last thing I wrote was what we already talked about, the collector. I said, so why give up the stone to the collector? Odin would think it's safer with him, and Odin isn't Odin, it's Loki, but Loki would still want to keep the stone for himself because that's Loki.
Not good. Okay. All right. You ready for my synopsis that I wrote for Thor: The Dark World? I mean, everything else was kind of bullet points. Or in Thor 1's case, just rewriting what each act should be, right?
Yeah.
Thor: The Dark World. The entire movie needs to not happen. Just make it a mixture of what happens in Age of Ultron and the opening monologue of Ragnarok. So what's your score of Thor: The Dark World? The obvious best movie that I absolutely love and adore. Don't hate whatsoever.
Now, everything I just complained about, I still don't hate the movie as much as you do.
Oh, I have a burning passion.
But I think I would maybe give it around, out of 10, maybe a 3.
3. That's generous.
Maybe
If you're rating this movie out of 10 and you're giving it a fucking 3, that's generous. This movie doesn't even deserve a fucking 1, but just for the sake of at least giving it something more than half, because there are definitely movies worse than this, it is a 1 out of 10. This movie fucking sucks.
Maybe I'll give it a 2.5.
Okay, thank you.
It's a
It's so
quarter.
still very generous,
Give
but
it a whole quarter out of $1.
wow. So we went through all 3 Thor movies. Thor 1, 7.5 to 8 out of 10 from Max. 7 out of 10 from me. Connor.
Averages to a 7.5.
Yes. My man Max in Thor: The Dark World rated this, as you just heard, 2.5 out of 10. 1 out of 10 from yours truly.
So we'll give it a basic average of about 1.5 to 2.
Yes. Thor Ragnarok. Max said 8.5. I said 8.5. We're in agreement. It's an average of an 8.5 here. Perfect right there. We're actually on sync for once. But yeah, I mean, generally, this was a very fun episode, and I'm glad that this was our first one that we're ever recording, really.
Yeah, first one.
I think, as a whole, I mean, I don't know. Thor, genuinely a interesting character development throughout all of the MCU. I don't know what you're thinking about, Love and Thunder coming out in 2 weeks.
I think I think my only complaint with where Thor's character's at right now is I kind of just wish he was a little bit of a combination of Thor 3 and Thor 1 Thor.
And you know what? I get that. I can understand it. I personally disagree. I like this Thor a lot more, but I think it's best.
I think you take what works from Thor 1 Thor.
And you ready for this? I got this one, yo.
You can do it?
I got it. Connor Gregory, not Max. Max doesn't care about everyone. I personally want to thank all of you for turning into the first episode of the Rewriters Room podcast here on the Red Greens Network channel. Again, you got your host right here, Max. You can follow him on any socials. We'll have those linked in the description below as well.
Usually it's just Maxwell D. Turk.
It's just Maxwell D. Turk usually. And meanwhile, you got your other host right here.
Co-host.
My host, Connor. You can follow me on all socials, again, linked in the description down below. And you can find my music on all platforms under Connor Gregory, as well as on most socials at IMCMGG. Yeah, I feel like this has been a great episode. If y'all are very much interested in seeing more content from us, make sure you give us a follow. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Red Greens Network. And make sure you share us around with your friends. We'll be posting our synopsis on Patreon, where you can subscribe and get all exclusive content betwing that, riff tracks, other things that we'll eventually.
Yeah, we have a lot of things planned for the future, and
exactly.
We have a lot of things that we want to put up, and we're gonna continuously try to keep new content, new things happening, not just with Patreon, but with each episode of this show and other shows, hopefully.
Exactly.
And I have a couple individual episodes where I will do deep dives into media I like, and Connor will do the same, where he'll do deep dives into media he likes.
What's up?
You said it like that's news to you. You're like, oh wait, I have to do that. You're just all of a sudden you're like, oh, I gotta.
Oh, shit, take that note down. No, but we got a lot planned here, and I think I speak for both of us when I say that we're very excited to show everyone what we've been working on the past 2 months, really?
Yeah, about 2 months.
Wow. But yeah, thank you for tuning in again to RWR. You can find us on all major podcasting platforms, as well as YouTube. And you can find all our social medias for the RWR podcast linked below as well. Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, everywhere. I will speak for myself when I say from Connor Gregory right here.
Oh, excuse me.
And that burp. Have a kick-ass day, y'all. Stay safe.
Bye. All right, cool.
Jeez, I'm so fucking done with this. Why are we even doing a podcast again?